Somebody just handed you the keys to a car factory. Congratulations. You are now roughly $7.5 billion in the hole. I want you to picture a real one, not a cartoon one. Drive about 20 miles outside Savannah, Georgia, to a town called Ellabelle, and you'll find Hyundai's Metaplant. It costs $7.59 billion. It sits on a site the size of a small city, and when it's fully staffed, it's supposed to employ 8,500 people and build up to 500,000 vehicles a year. Right now, it's built to do about 300,000. So here's your job. You own this thing. You have to make money with it. And the question that should be screaming in your head is, how many cars do I have to build before I earn a single dollar of profit? Hold on to your guess, because the real answer has almost nothing to do with the cars you sell, and almost everything to do with the cars you don't build. I'll explain. First, let's talk about what you actually bought, because Car Factory is doing a lot of hiding here. You didn't buy one building. You bought 4 factories bolted together. The first is the stamping shop, where flat coils of steel go in and body panels come out. The presses are enormous, but the presses aren't really the expense. The dies are. A die is the giant metal mold that punches the shape of a fender or a door into a sheet of steel, and a single serious body panel die can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with a large automated stamping operation running north of $100 million. Here's the part that matters. Every time you change the shape of the car, you throw those dies away and buy new ones. Design is not free. Design is a demolition charge you set off inside your own balance sheet. Then there's the body shop, where robots weld those panels into a shell. Then final assembly, where the seats and the wiring and the engine or the battery go in. And then there's the paint shop, which is the one nobody outside the industry thinks about and everybody inside the industry is terrified of. It is routinely the most expensive and most critical stage in the whole plant, and it's the one place where you cannot afford downtime. A paint line alone can run $50 to $150 million. Chemistry, ovens, air handling, environmental controls. If the paint shop stops, the entire factory stops, because you cannot store an unpainted car body. It'll start rusting. So the whole multi-billion-dollar machine you just bought is, in a real sense, held hostage by an oven. Okay, line's running. Do the arithmetic with me. A plant built for 300,000 cars a year, working 2 shifts, roughly 250 days a year, is producing a finished vehicle about once a minute. Every 60 seconds, a car has to come off the end of that line, and every 60 seconds, that car have a buyer. Now, if I asked you what your biggest enemy is in this business, I think most people would say the same thing. Labor. Union wages. That's the story everybody's been told for 40 years. So let's check it. All-in labor cost, wages plus benefits, at the Detroit 3 ran around $65 an hour before the 23 contract, versus roughly $55 for the foreign-owned plants in the US and around $45 at Tesla. After the strike, those Detroit numbers are headed for $75 to $78 an hour. That sounds catastrophic. That sounds like the thing that you isn't. It isn't. Here's the head fake. Labor is only about 7% of the cost of building a car. Some analysts put it closer to 5%. And when the automakers themselves priced out that historic hard-fought union contract, here's what it actually did to a vehicle. GM said it added about $575 per vehicle over the life of the deal, and Ford estimated $850 to $900. On a car with a sticker price in the 40s, that's a rounding error wearing a costume. Zoom out and it's even starker. Oliver Wyman's Harbor Report, which benchmarks over 250 assembly plants worldwide, puts labor cost per vehicle at about $1,341 for U.S. mainstream automakers, $769 for the Japanese, $585 for Chinese manufacturers, and $3,307 for German premium brands. The Germans pay 5 times what China pays per car, and they are not the ones going out of business. So the wage is not the villain of this story. The villain is the empty spot on the line. Because here's the thing about that $7.5 billion. It doesn't care. It doesn't care if you build 300,000 cars or 3. The dies still sit there. The paint ovens still burn. The debt still accrues. Those are fixed costs, and fixed costs are a hungry animal that has to be fed every single day, whether or not you're selling anything. So the only lever you have is how many cars you spread that animal across. And the industry has a number for this. It's called capacity utilization. What percentage of the plant's maximum output you're actually using? And break even is generally considered to be 80%, 80, which means at your 300,000 unit plant, the first 240,000 cars you build are just paying rent to the ghost of the construction crew. Car number 240,001 is the first one that makes you a dime. Below 80%, the math turns on you fast. Fewer cars carrying the same enormous fixed cost means the burden on each car goes up, which means your margin per car goes down at exactly the moment when you're already selling fewer cars. It's a downward spiral with a very short runway. And this is not theoretical. In 2018, 8 of GM's 12 U.S. assembly plants were running at or below that 80% line, and Ford's Michigan assembly plant was running at 25% utilization. 25. That is a beautiful, functioning, world-class factory setting money on fire every hour it stays open, which is exactly why plants get closed. Not because the workers failed, because the product in them stopped selling. So now the real question, assuming you get it right, 80%, cars flying out the door. How rich are you? Toyota, the most operationally excellent manufacturer on the planet, makes about $2,595 of operating income per vehicle. Ford, in a good stretch, reported about $3,000 before interest and taxes on each gas or hybrid vehicle sold. $2-3 a car on a $40,000 product. That's a business with the profit profile of a grocery store, running on infrastructure with the profit profile of a nuclear plant. Which, and this is the part that reframes the whole industry, is why the smartest players in the room refuse to play this game at all. Ferrari's 2025 operating margin was 29.5%. Divide their operating profit by their shipments, and it's roughly 154,700 euros of profit per car, meaning Toyota has to sell about 65 vehicles to match what Ferrari earns on one. Ferrari didn't win by building a better factory. They won by refusing to need a big one. Their entire strategy is to keep volume low, so scarcity, not utilization, does the work. And if you want to see what happens when you get this exactly backwards, look at Ford's EV division. Model E lost $5.1 billion in 2024. It lost about $4.8 billion in 2025. They sold 178,000 EVs that year, which works out to a loss of roughly $27,000 per electric vehicle. And it got uglier than that. In one quarter of 2024, Ford's EV unit lost $1.3 billion while selling 10,000 vehicles, about $132,000 of loss per car. Now, Ford wasn't setting money on fire out of stupidity. That's the fixed cost monster again, in its purest form. Multi-billion-dollar plants, battery factories, engineering programs, all built for a volume that never showed up. Ford's CFO has said Model E isn't expected to break even until around 2029, and the division has lost more than $16 billion in 4 years. Same factory math as the Meta plant, just running in reverse. So, back to your keys. The truth about owning a car factory is that you are not really in the business of building cars. You are in the business of filling minutes. You have bought a machine that produces one vehicle every 60 seconds for the next 20 years, and it will produce it whether or not a customer exists. Your only job, the entire job, is to make sure that when that car rolls off the line, somebody wants it. Get that right, and you earn $3,000, 60 seconds at a time. Get it wrong, and the machine keeps running anyway. If you found this video valuable, leave a like, subscribe, and comment below which business you want me to cover next.